Welcome back to Watching Business Incorporated right here on Channels Television. We head to the markets now. Trading for the very first day this week. Anite Edet has the details. Anite, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Nini. Of course, it was quite a long holiday from the weekend into two trading days, two days in the week. And then the first trading day, Wednesday, starting off quite on the green side. Let's exactly. Of course, we always like to see that green color printed on the Nigerian exchange as well as some other markets. Now, let's take a look at the intraday numbers coming up from the Salah, the two-day Salah break. Nigeria's investors are consolidating the comeback that we had sometime last week. Of course, we have some portfolio investors as well as local investors putting their money into this market. And there we have it there, back at the 100,000 points, which has now become what you might call the new psychological level. And at 0.09% in the green intraday, we see sectors such as the oil and gas as well as some banking counters making that move. And of course, tomorrow we'll be having Fidelity Bank combined offer, which will greet the market, and that's one of the first offers to reach this market so far as bank recapitalization issue is to be mentioned. And still tracking Africa, we see the South Africa's stock market 1.33%. Very strong, and also it has crossed the 80,000 points. Not just the South African stock market, but as well as the rand, the country's currency, has also firmed, and this is coming because investors have endorsed the second term leadership of Cyril Ramaphosa, the country's president, who has just been inaugurated for a second term to lead Africa's biggest economy so far, which is Nigeria's sideways contemporary. So the two African giants in terms of economy and the market, they were in the green at intraday. Now let's look at the other side of the market, where we see Egyptian stock market still on holiday, well in the green there as at last week, while Kenya's stock exchange, that's the NSE 20, was in the red 0.40% at intraday. So that's it for African market that we track at intraday. And now let's talk about the fixed income market a little bit, and this time we're looking at the Eurobond market, where initially earlier this year the finance minister Mr. Wale Edun had announced that Nigeria will be seeking to raise some funds sometime in the middle of this year for several financing through the Eurobonds market. And the last time the government had tapped into the Eurobond market was in 2022, where it raised about $1.25 billion at a rate of 8.375% through a 7-year Eurobond. And now, one of the factors that the government would like to tap into the Eurobond market is for lower interest rates, because it's the dollar denominated, and at the same time to shore up the forex reserves. But now the forex reserves is so many analysts have already seen it coming back up, because Nigeria just recently got a $2.25 billion loan from the World Bank, as well as a $3.5 billion loan also from the Afrexim Bank, from the Afrexim Bank just recently, and it's a back-to-back. So now let's get more perspective on this, how this is shaping up, particularly when you look at the Naira. Let's bring in our fixed income and FX dealer, Mr. Bosun Obembe with Access Bank. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Bosun.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Okay, now, so this is, I would like to ask the question, is this timing, or when should we expect the Eurobond flotation by the government? Because this is already June, and June is almost on its way out. So when should investors expect this Eurobond market flotation?
I think the flotation should be expected this year, but the timing, probably, I think the proper timing should be towards the end of the year. Because if you, like you rightly mentioned, if you look at where the external reserve is currently above $33 billion, and if you look at it month on month, the growth has been over $600 million. And like you mentioned, we got a lot of inflows. The Afrexim 925 $5 million coming in. The World Bank 2.25 hasn't reflected in the FX reserve. By the time that reflects in the reserve, you see it growing. And earlier in the month, we saw some offshore selling to the CBN, which has actually boosted the foreign exchange. So I think when you look at it, why do you want to borrow at this time? When we're going to borrow at double digits. Why not wait for when maybe the Fed will have cut rates? So at that time, you can go to the market and able to borrow at a single digit. So I think the government will still go ahead with the Eurobond. However, I think this is not the proper timing given where the pricing is.
Okay, so now that's for the Eurobond. Now let's talk about both the Naira and the fixed income markets, which is just coming from that salad break. How is the market performing against the dollar? And then also, how are what is investor sentiment for the Treasury bills market as well as the bonds markets?
So for the fixed income market and the FX market, let me start with the FX. Over the weekend, the inflation figure came out where it went up slightly. So what we're seeing CBN has done today is to float a normal auction. Ways in which CBN can tighten this to do a more auction or like CRR and other increasing the monetary policy rate. So what CBN has done today is to float a normal auction about 500 billion, given that the system liquidity was about 500 billion. So what CBN is going to do is to mop out this excess liquidity to be able to reduce the client's ability to actually buy or speculate in FX. So we've seen a lot of flows from investors willing to sell fund at 1470 to 1480. And on the fixed income side, it's been a quiet day, given the home auction that was announced today. It's currently going on, and we expect the yield at the auction to reflect the little uptick we see in inflation rate. So the market is awaiting the result of the home auction, which will dictate the direction of the market. And next week, we have a bond auction. It ought to have happened this week, but due to the holiday, it was moved to next week. So investors are actually awaiting the increase in the inflation rate to reflect in both the bond auction that will happen next week. So it's been a quiet market.
A quiet market, but then we look out for how it ends Wednesday's trading session, particularly for the start of the week in trading. But thank you so much for your analysis on our show.